Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the last show for the year. We will just wait for a few more people to turn up and we'll get the show started. Just talk amongst yourselves. Oh, that was my wake up alarm. Can I have a sound check to make sure that everything is working? While we're waiting, we'll say some g'days. Martin, g'day. You were first. MJ, second, obviously. Danny, how are you? Joy, g'day. Brendan, how are you? Ronnie Sanchez, how are you? Oh, everything sounds good. Lovely. Jacob, Brendan, if I haven't mentioned you already. Mike, g'day. How are you? All right, so let's kick the show off. I'm not sure how many. Let's have a look at Stream Health. YouTube says it's good. And let's rock and roll.
Well, g'day, curd nerds. G'day, curd nerds.
Well, g'day, curd nerds.
Well, g'day, curd nerds.
Well, g'day, curd nerds. Well, g'day, curd nerds. Right, and we're back. Welcome to episode 48 of Ask the Cheeseman, where you can ask all of your home cheese making questions, and I'll attempt to do my very best to answer them. Just some housekeeping straight up. If I don't say it already, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all that sort of stuff for the end of this week. And we're taking a week off from the show. So next week, on the 27th, there won't be a show. But the show will start again on the 3rd of January. So Kim and I will be back here. So we're taking a bit of a break. Not only that, we're also shutting the shop from 23rd of December until the 8th of January. So even though you can order online at littlegreenworkshops.com.au, you won't be able to get them shipped. We'll start shipping again on the 9th of January, Tuesday. Also, some great news. Patreon made a bit of an ordinary decision early on in the month where they said they were going to charge the fees that I normally accept to the patrons, which was a bit silly when people were, a lot of my patrons anyway, are all $1 subscribers, which is fantastic. However, they're going to throw a fee on top of that, and people are going to have to pay more. So it was a bit weird, and I had patrons dropping like flies. But it's good to see that quite a few have come back again. But sometime during the show, Kim would we'll put the link to the Patreon site where you can support on a monthly basis. Also, don't forget that during the show, you can do a super chat. If you want to donate straight away, there's a little dollar sign down there, and you can donate, and most of the proceeds of that goes to us, except for processing payment fees that YouTube take out. Anyway, so let's get on with the questions, shall we? Oh, sorry, I've got another bit of news. A fellow cheesemaker here in Australia called Graham, I don't know if he's on the line here, but has donated, it's about 13 litres of used milk that I've got defrosting. It was frozen. And I'm going to make a couple of sheep's milk cheeses, which should be very, very interesting. I've never handled sheep's milk before, but we will see what happens. There's a couple of cheeses I'm going to try. One raw milk cheese and then one pasteurised milk cheese. Okay. So that answers Jacob's question. Do you work with sheep's milk? And, okay, the next question is, Jacob's looking for a sheep's milk cream cheese. I dare say that'll work. Just use my cow's milk cheese. Remember that sheep's milk has a much higher fat content than what cow's and goat's milk does. So your yield will be massive. Tim asks, received mozzarella as a gift in the mail. How long can it stay at room temperature when being shipped? Is that the mozzarella kit or the mozzarella cheese itself. The kit itself, if there's a freezer, usually most kits will have a freezer pack in them. It'll be the Rennet tablets or something like that. You should pop them in the freezer as soon as you can. Okay, we got a Tim. Thank you very much for your kind donation there. All right, I'm a bit all over the shop. All right, let me get back to where I was. Jacob says Cashcaval, which is what do they call it? No, can't remember. It's the same as an Italian cheese called Caciocavalli, which is cheese on horseback or something like that. Almost summer solstice. Yes, the summer solstice is tomorrow for us. So where the days and nights are equal length. Martin, hey Gavin, what cheese would you recommend that is semi-hard and has a strong piquant flavour? Oh, good question. Semi-hard that has a strong flavour. There aren't many actually. It probably for piquant flavour. You could do a Romano, which is semi-hard to hard. So Vaccio Romano, which is cow's milk Romano. As long as you add some lipase powder to that, then you can age that for as little as 10 months and you'll get a piquant flavour. I was going to recommend Parmesan, but it's way too hard for what you're asking for. Yoakum, how are you? Hopefully I haven't butchered that. Hi to you. Danny says, I just made Parmesan wheel and realised that there's a Stilton wheel in the fridge. Can I store the two together in the fridge? Could I just wipe the mould off, if any, and vac pack? Yeah, no problems, Danny. That's exactly what I do. In fact, my Parmesan, I let it form a rind for about 4 weeks, and then it's safely in its vac pack now, so it won't get any mould contamination. So, yeah, that'll work. Richard says, please advise on one optimum spacing for curd wire that I can use for different cheeses. Look, the vast majority of the cuts that I seem to do are 1.25 centimetres apart, which is the same as half an inch. That seems to support most cheeses. If I need to do them finer, then I'll just go over again with the balloon whisk and stab that down in, not stab, but, push it down into the curds. And that seems to work okay. If I need them bigger, then I'll still use the curd cutter for the horizontals, but I'll just make the verticals wider, and that seems to work okay as well. Okay, NKY Homesteading, welcome to you. Hopefully that answered your question, Richard. So that seems to be does it quite well. Hang on, let me just have a drink of coffee. That's my problem. Okay. The Algerian experimental, where's the Fontaine video? Good question, it's coming. The footage is all done, the A-roll and the B-roll, it's all put together. I've just got to put the final voiceover on it, and that will be released this weekend. So I'll still release on a regular schedule. So there'll be taste tests and some cheese making. I've got a couple of cheeses videos up my sleeve, so when I'm on holidays, you won't even know I'm gone, besides the live chat. So the Fontaine video will be released this weekend. Okay, Nicholas says, I'll be soon getting some raw cow's milk, which is rather rare for my area. What cheese do you highly recommend I make with raw milk? I'd avoid all of the soft cheeses unless you absolutely know the state of the milk and it's been tested for E. coli and listeria. I would recommend the higher temperature, longer aged cheeses. So cheeses, hard Italian cheeses or Alpine cheeses, they're the best ones. As long as the temperature gets over 50 degrees when you do the cook of the curds, and that you're aging for at least 10 months, and the temperature you're aging them at is between, I think it's 10 and 11 degrees Celsius. They're the regulations here for Food Standards Australia when using raw milk. So I can only recommend those. If I recommend anything else, then I don't know. Don't sue me or anything like that. Anyway, um, no, it's not used milk. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you, Evelyn. Caitlin says, every time I tried goat cheese, it has been really sharp in flavour. Is there a cheese with goat's milk that tastes more mild, or is it the goat's cheese I've tasted just bad? No, goat's cheeses tend to be on the sharp flavour range because, Caitlin, there is a lot more lipase present in the goat's milk. What you can do is use like half and half. So if you still want to get a piquant flavour in the cheese, but not as sharp as what it was, the best thing to do is to use, say, 50% goat's milk, 50% cow's milk, and then you'll get a milder tasting cheese. So if you make it yourself. So try that, and that will certainly reduce the sharpness or the piquant flavour of the cheese. Marcus says, so I'm just curious, what makes each cheese type different? Is it the method? Yeah, exactly, Marcus. It's usually, there's main factors, the type of milk you use, the temperature you inoculate, the starter culture itself, the size you cut the curds, how long you stir the curds for, whether you introduce any molds into the milk or not, whether you add any ripening bacteria into the milk or not. There are so many variables. Every cheese recipe is different, or technique. Therefore, that's why you get different cheeses. Michelle asks, can you use evaporated goat's milk to make cheese? I haven't come across it. You would have to rehydrate it back to its normal water content, and I would have no idea how to calculate them. Sorry, Michelle, I haven't used it. Ron says, oi, Gavin, what makes a difference? I'll start again. Does it make a difference when adding calcium chloride, as long as it is added before the rennet? Yes, it does make a difference. Yeah, there's no point adding it after the rennet because its main purpose is to add back some soluble calcium into the milk, which is usually destroyed by pasteurization, and even more so with homogenization. So when you add the calcium chloride, just make it sure it's any time before adding the rennet. I usually add it about 30 seconds, 40 seconds before the rennet. I have been known when I'm unsure of the quality of the milk, I'll add it at the start of the process as I'm heating up the milk to the first target temperature before adding the starter culture. So I've done that before as well. Andrew says, hi, Gavin. I've just made your queso fresco with cranberries. What is the maximum length of time you can keep it in a standard 4 degrees fridge? I would say 7 days because it's quite prone to, because it's got minimal amount of salt in it. I would say unless you've got an airtight container, then 7 days. If you just got it wrapped in cling wrap, it'll start to get all sorts of funky molds on it. I would think that if you do have it in an airtight container, 2 weeks would be the maximum that I would leave it in there. But doesn't it taste absolutely fabulous? It's a great little cheese. Okay, Nicholas, thanks for the raw milk advice. I made your quick mozzarella and saved the whey. I tried making whey ricotta with the leftover, but got no curds. Yeah, so when you use, there's different types of cheeses. So if they're acid set or the quick mozzarella, and you try to make ricotta out of it, you will have no joy at all. Usually most of those cheeses have whey that is clear yellow, which indicates that there's no more casein left. Casein's the white stuff, the solids in the milk, the protein. So you won't have any more casein left, and therefore it won't coagulate into ricotta. So you can only use whey that is cloudy, and I mean cloudy from a rennet set cheese, other than quick mozzarella. and that's when you'll have success when making ricotta. You cannot make ricotta with clear whey or whey made from whey left over from quick mozzarella. Hopefully that answers your question, Nicholas. Next one is Gil. What would be the best site to get all the tools and substances to tackle cheese making? Thanks, Des. Best site, look, I won't say any more than littlegreenworkshops.com.au. Give myself a plug, if anything, or go to Little Green Cheese and look for look for cheese kits, and you'll go straight through. So thanks, Des. Appreciate that $20. That makes a world of difference. Charlie says, hello, Gavin. Got to taste the chew cheese this week. Philly and Jarlsberg both came out great. Fantastic. Thanks, Charlie. Appreciate it. Yeah, they are great little recipes, aren't they? They're kind of like the Jarlsberg. I always thought it was going to be hard to make, but it's really not. It is quite simple. You just got to watch how fast it starts to expand out of its wax when you make it, when the eye development. Okay, the Bluntsmith. Hi, Gavin. I was wondering what benefits of using raw milk are. Is there a flavour difference or just that you don't need to add calcium? The flavour differences are like chalk and cheese, as they say. When you use raw milk, it still has all of the lactic bacteria from its environment that the animal was milked in. So therefore, a lot of the time, you don't have to add in any starter cultures. So that makes a world of difference. So you'll have a totally different flavour profile than standardised pasteurised milk. And most raw milks that you'll get is obviously from a single herd. So it is native to that area that you're in. So you'll make a cheese that it will never be made, never be the same ever again. And you obviously don't need to add calcium chloride. Sometimes you do, though. Depends on the lactation period. If it's an early lactation, then you should be okay. If it's late in the lactating cycle of the animal, then you probably will have to add calcium chloride. Okay, Jacob, can you make, I can't even pronounce it, J-Toss cheese with cheese milk, or would you think it would be too funky? I have made mysost or myost. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, which I think is the same sort of cheese, which is basically a whey cheese. And there is a video for it somewhere. Not sure if Kim's there, but yeah, there's a video for Norwegian whey cheese, and it does taste fantastic if you use the whey from a cheese that you've set with rennet. So I think it was a cheddar that I used to make the mysost that I did. No problems, Andrew. And once again, thanks, Des. I'm up to that part of the conversation. Vizzo, I really enjoy your videos. Thanks so much for all the education. Curd Nerds rule. Indeed we do. Indeed we do. Yeah. Okay, Jacob. So Jacob, it's all over the place. I'll have to go back. With sheep's milk. Yeah, you could make it with sheep's milk. Couldn't see why not. Deep South Texas. I'm embarrassed to say I like American cheese. What real cheese can I make that will be similar in taste and melting? American cheese, if I remember rightly, is what is it? It's a processed cheese. The closest flavour you'll get is, would you believe, Butterkäse, which is a German cheese, really soft in texture, soft in taste, and I believe it kind of tastes something like that processed stuff you guys call American cheese. Okay. Oh, thanks, MJ. Appreciate it. Thanks for the £2. Keponic? Keponki. Keponki. There we go. Thank you for what you do. Thank you. B Swin says, I have some grocery store whole milk that is starting to smell sour. How soon do you recommend that milk for cheese making? If liquid is noticeably separation. Yeah, look, the problem is with store-bought milk, it's been pasteurised, and pasteurisation is supposed to kill all of the bad bacteria. It kills all the good bacteria as well in milk. However, if you've got pasteurized milk that's starting to smell off, then obviously some bad bacteria, nothing else, has got into the milk. I would throw it away straight away. If it starts to smell off, do not even think about making cheese with it. The best time to make cheese with grocery store milk or pasteurized milk, whatever, then you will find that you need to get it as close to the use, well, no, not to the use by date, as far away from the use by date as possible. Here in Australia, the use by date is usually 14 days. So if you can get it as close, backtrack that on the use by date and have a look at as close as you can to the production date of that milk. That is the best time to use grocery store milk. You know, I'm often caught rummaging through the milk cabinet at the supermarket looking for the freshest milk possible, because I always put the stuff with the closest use by date at the start of the milk aisle. I'm always trying to go to the back and grabbing it. Yes, it's amazing. Anyway, hopefully that helps. Nicholas says, is there any alternative to a maturation box, or does it need to be specifically made for cheese? No, any plastic container will do, as long as you have a mat in the bottom, or cut a bamboo mat down to size, or what have you. As long as the cheese isn't sitting in any of the way that may be seeping out during the ripening or maturation period. So any plastic tub with a lid, as long as it's larger than the cheese that you're putting in it, of course. So just try anything. You know, I've got plastic containers that are massive. I've had to put 2 or 3 bamboo mats to keep it off the floor and cut them down with very sharp scissors, and that seems to work all right. Nicholas has another question. How do I make a saturated brine? I'm learning so much. If Kim can put the link from the YouTube channel where it's how to make brine, that'll teach you everything, Nicholas. Roy says, hi, Gavin and Wendy. That'll be Kim. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you, Roy, anyway. I'm sure Kim doesn't mind being called Wendy. Jacob says it's Norwegian breakfast cheese. Yes, so Kim's put the link in that for you. It'll be absolutely fantastic. Very sweet. It's got a sweetness that is that I'd never tasted before. It's definitely the lactose in that cheese. Steve says, hi, Gavin, just made the Chihuahua, and that pup is in the press. I love the pun. Yeah, mine's vac packed, and I reckon it's going to be fantastic. If it tastes anything like cheddar, then it's a lot quicker than making cheddar, if that makes sense. So that'll be good. All right, where I'm up to. Kim, thanks for that link on MySauce. Deep South Texas says, great, I have a Butterkäse, be ready in 2 weeks. Yep, I think you'll be pretty impressed with that. Melissa, how can you make cream cheese? Well, the process of cream cheese is very, very simple. You add the starter, heat the milk up to, I think it's about 30 degrees Celsius, add the starter culture, give it a good stir, add a few drops of rennet, give that a good stir in as well, and leave it overnight. And the next morning, you should have a good curd set, because really it's the acid from the starter culture that sets the curd, not really the rennet in this case. You scoop it into a tight weave cheesecloth, you hang it in a bag in a big ball shape, and you let that drain for another day. And then bingo boingo, you've got cream cheese. It's that easy. There's a video for it, if Kim can find that, for cream cheese, and that'll help you out, Melissa. Jacob, thanks, Merry Christmas. Your show is awesome. I'm a nerd when it comes to food. Would you be a curd nerd, though? No problems, Jacob. Brendan, I do that, looking for the longest use by date. Yeah, definitely, Brendan. It's the only way to go in the supermarket, because, like I said, they stack all the oldest milk up the front. You want to get the freshest milk, which is usually way up the back. Can you do a video of Jutland blue cheese? I'll have a look what that is. A lot of these cheeses, unfortunately, don't have specific recipes, or they do. They're with the manufacturer. So things like Old Amsterdam, for instance, which is a blue cheese, um, almost impossible to get the recipe for. Really, all you can do is experiment with whatever your favourite blue cheese recipe is, and go from there. So um, it's very difficult to get some of these cheese recipes. If it's a standard sort of recipe that's been handed down through the ages and it's made by many, many different cheesemakers, then usually you'll be able to source the recipe from books and stuff like I've got behind me, um, or on the net. But very hard to get some cheeses. But I've written that one down for you. Caitlin says, "What is the stinkiest cheese I've ever made?" Um, cannot find cream cheese. Is it under another name? Kim says. No, it's definitely called cream cheese, Kimmy. Um, Stinkiest cheese. I would say the Munster was fairly stinky. It really did pong. It's one of those washed rind cheeses with the orange rind. And that's the French version of Munster, not the American version. Very, very smelly, but amazingly tasty. Any washed rind cheese, even though it stinks like old socks, it just tastes fantastic. It is amazing. But Swin says, "Thanks, Gavin. Just toss the sour milk. We'll follow your advice. Happy holidays, you and Kim." Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Vizio says, "Hey, Gavin, have you done a tour of your cheese cave? I'm interested in seeing it." Well, actually, that's pretty good because that's a good one for a video, actually, in between Christmas. Because it's only a fridge, not a cave. But the thing is, it is chock-a-block full of cheese at the moment. Because I've done a lot of long aging cheeses, the cheese fridge is really, really full. Anyway, so that's a good video, good suggestion. Thank you so much, Vizio. Melissa, I love Gavin's channel. Thank you very much. And I think it's Theory. Hi, Curd Nerd. Have you ever made Limburger? No, but I've made some cheeses that are very close to Limburger. Any red wash rind usually has the same pong and the same sort of taste. Roy says, "Gavin, I've made and started to mature a Stilton. I have it in a maturation box, but it seems to be bubbling and fermenting and is very spongy. Any idea?" Yes. Usually, if that happens within the first few weeks or the first few days, it's a chloroform infection. It's an infection in the milk itself, and you should throw it away. Unfortunately, I've had it happen myself, and you get these little holes through the cheese, and it is, or it starts to swell, and you get one big hole. Very bad. So, unfortunately, I don't think that cheese can be saved. It should not be bubbling and fermenting at all. It's probably got some yeast in it as well from somewhere. If you made, say, bread, sourdough bread, or just normal bread with yeast in the kitchen at the same time, roughly, as the cheese, then your milk may have got a yeast infection. Unfortunately. Okay. Kim found the cream cheese. Well done, darling. Steve, find the supermarket that's the busiest. They turn over milk fastest, and you'll find the freshest there. Yes, good suggestion, Steve. Turbo, I don't eat or make cheese, but your videos are so interesting, I can't stop watching them. Thanks, Turbo. Appreciate it. Fatima said, rest in peace, cheese. Indeed. Roy's cheese has gone to met the thing. Roy says, apologies to Kim. I've just been watching another Australian YouTube channel with a Wendy. Lovely. No problems at all. Well, that's the, I was going to say that's the end of the show, but it's not. We're at the 30-minute mark, and I've run out of questions. I'm not sure how many people we've actually got online. We've got 50, it says here, which is fantastic. Andrew says Cheatham. That'd be a cross between a cheddar and a Edam, would it? Oh, Brendan, thank you very much. Well, here comes all the questions. Brendan, I have a new horizontal curd cutter. It's made from food-grade stainless steel rod on the end of a dowel. You push it down the pot and rotate it, and it makes a cut. You repeat that till you cut all the curd. I think I know what you mean. I think I've seen something like that before. So the rod's, it's still a round rod, but it's fairly small, and you just either take it down, do the turn, take it down another bit, do the turn. Um, yeah, I've seen them. They're very functional. So instead of having to do wires like mine has for everything, it would work very good. Melissa says, when Gavin serve is cutting the cheese. No, sorry, didn't understand your question, Melissa. When I'll serve the cheese? No, I'm not sure. Kim likes the name Wendy. Well done. Very thin, yes. It worked great. That's fantastic. Thanks, Brendan. Caitlin, thanks for the advice on the goat's cheese. I will try that. I've heard French Munster stunk, and it's good to know the flavour is worth it. Yeah, look, it definitely is. The first washed rind cheese I ever made was called Tilsit, which is, I think, a better tasting cheese than Munster, but that's my personal preference. But it did taste amazing, and Munster tastes good as well, but not as good as Tilsit. Roy said, hit the nail on the head with the bread, but it did taste okay. There you go. Look at that. See, I still got it. Kim says, got all the grown-up kids coming over for Christmas, so perhaps another taste test. Yes, we've got a double Gloucester sitting in the fridge. I think I've got in the cheese fridge, I've got a blue cheese that might be ready as well. And I'll definitely make some mozzarella, which is nice and cute. I'm going to show my grandkids how to make cheese, even though she's only 3, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think people will be impressed by a little bit of quick mozzarella that we can eat straight away. It'd be very yummy. So yeah, we do have the kids coming over. And that's all my adult kids. Will all be in the same room, which is very nice. Okay. NKY says, does cheddar cheese made with goat's milk have a different name, or would it still be considered cheddar? I'm getting goats in the spring. I think it is. Some of the recipe books that I've seen, they actually have goat's milk cheddar. That's the title of the recipe. So traditionally, traditionally, cheddar is made with cow's milk. And yeah, look, you can call it cheddar. You'll still be able to do the cheddaring process. There'll be nothing different. It'll just have a very sharp flavour to it, even sharper than vintage cheddar itself. Okay, Nicholas says, can you explain the different types of cheesecloths and when to use them? Yeah, nice question. Cheesecloths, 2 main types. There's butter muslin, which is like your bed sheets, like linen. You can't really see through them very well. However, they are amazingly good at making soft cheeses. So cheeses like cream cheese, cheeses like ricotta, paneer, anything that you think may has a very fragile curd, and that may go straight through the other type of cheesecloth, which is a loose weave cheesecloth. There are different grades of loose weave cheesecloths. But the one we stock seems to do the job. That's for when the curds are a little bit chunkier. You can actually see through a little bit through this cheesecloth. But yeah, loose weave for semi-hard and hard, and tight weave cheesecloth for soft cheese. Okay, Andrew asks, what has been your most difficult cheese to make and why? Look, I would say the provolone was the hardest or most difficult, because I really didn't understand the time needed for the curds to increase in acidity. They have to go from, when fresh milk is about 6.8 pH, it has to go all the way down to a pH of about between 5.3 and 5. And that can take many, many hours. In some recipes I've seen 2 days for the curds to get down to that pH level. And I just didn't understand that had to happen. So I kind of tried to force the cheese into becoming stretchy when it didn't want to, basically. So I was up until midnight. I think it was 1 to 2 o'clock in the morning, stretching this curd when I'd started the cheese at 11 in the morning. So it was a very long cheese making day and frustrating, but I got there in the end. The provolone video looks pretty cool, and the cheese tasted not very nice. It's very good provolone. Nicholas says, have I ever tasted Freelando? No, I haven't. But yeah, I'll have a look at that. Ethan says, how useful is a curd cutter? Is a knife good enough, or should we get or make a slice as well? Look, it depends on your cutting skills, I suppose. Mine were very poor. I used to end up with really large chunks of curd because I just couldn't cut them small enough. The curd cutter takes away at least 10 minutes of your time during the cheese making process, especially for the horizontal cuts, which are the most difficult because if you haven't got a horizontal curd cutter, what you basically have to do is cut at a 45-degree angle. That's the only way you can do it after you've done the vertical cuts. So it is a bit of a godsend. It certainly has helped me. Melissa says, is cottage cheese hard to make? Well, it seems to be hard for me because I've tried it twice and failed both times and just ended up with cream cheese. And it depends on your definition of cottage cheese because here in Australia, it tends to be this weird, very small, curdy-like flavour, and I think they've added cream to it and a whole bunch of other things, and I can never get it to that texture. And on the other hand, I've seen cottage cheese that is basically cheese curds, like the squeaky cheese curds that you get in the dish called poutine. So, yeah, the definition of cottage cheese is open for interpretation. But no, I haven't made it. Oh, I have made it, but failed both times. Valenson says, what smoking techniques have you tried? Could you cold smoke the curd before pressing? No, unfortunately not. Now, only smoking technique I've tried is adding liquid smoke to cheese, and that works very, very well. I think it was 2 tablespoons per, I think it was an 8 or 10 litre make. And that tasted smoky and it was a good flavour. But that was liquid smoke. The only cold smoking you can do is when the cheese is mature. So once it has matured, then you can cold smoke the cheese. Never do it beforehand, because then you won't be able to get it to press, because you've put the smoke through it. The curd has cooled down too much and will not knit together when you put it in the press. Okay, Doug says, I've made several fresco cheeses from raw milk using a home pasteurization. Simply heating the milk to 65 to 30 minutes. 65 for 30 minutes, then cool quickly. Highly recommend this. Yes, it is a very good way, Doug, of, it's called low temperature long hold is the method of pasteurization. And it is very good for maintaining some of the friendly bacteria or the good bacteria that is still in the milk. So if you do need to pasteurize your milk, you get your hands on some raw milk, that temperature there, so that's in Celsius, so 65 Celsius for 30 minutes, then quickly cool it down to 4 degrees or to the recipe temperature and then start making the cheese. When I was at the cheese making factory with Troy and Kim came along too, Inglenook Dairies, their pasteurization temperature was 73 degrees Celsius for 3 seconds, and they cool it down to 4 degrees in half a second using their pasteurizer machine. Now, that's the lowest legal temperature that a milk producer can pasteurize their milk at. And that actually then also helps with the structure of for making cheese as well. And I had really great result with Fontaine, and you'll see that video coming up this weekend. Charlie's got a question. I have made some, but not all of my feta going slimy in the brine. Now I just hand salt and the cheese gets good results. Now, sliminess in the brine, it means, Charlie, that you haven't got a balanced brine. Go and have a look at the, there's a video that I made for goat's milk feta. Have a look at the brine there. It's a 10% saturation. And what you also add is, I think it's a tablespoon or teaspoon of vinegar, a bit of calcium chloride, and then you test the pH of it. The pH, it has to be a balanced pH brine, because otherwise you'll get an ion exchange. You'll get the calcium ions trying to get out of the cheese into the salt water, into the brine, and it'll make it go all slimy. When you've got a balanced pH brine, then it tends to stay together and you won't get that leaching and sliminess. So go and check that video out, Charlie, and you'll get some good information there. Chicheri, that's how you say it. Okay, thank you very much. Ethan says, thanks, Nicholas. I've always wondered about the cheesecloth as well. No problems for both of you. Steve, I made a bunch of curd cutters like G users. That's me in the house, G. Can search curd cutter on YouTube for a demo and purchase if you wish. Okay, thanks, Steve. Good shout out for yourself. Okay, where the heck is, where am I up to? Oh, thank you, NKY, for that $5. Greatly appreciated. Where are we up to? Andrew says, I've used crystallized ginger in Wensleydale for Christmas following the cranberry Wensleydale. So that will be interesting. I think I saw that on one of the Facebook groups I'm in, Andrew. I did see a cranberry Wensleydale. It looked very, very nice. I'm going to be making, well, soon, as per my schedule, I'm going to be making some dried apricot white Stilton, which I think any sort of fruit will go well with, and dried fruit. So, yeah, I'm going to try that. Just a small batch and see what happens. Blue Stilton that I make always works out quite well, so I'm going to try white Stilton, which is the same recipe without the Penicillium roqueforti. So it'll be very creamy because there's a fair bit of cream added to that cheese. Doug says, looking for Gruyere recipes. Some say no propionic shamani, yours included. Others say use a heat teaspoon. Why this crazy variation? What is your thought? I do remember having Gruyere in Switzerland because it's the main ingredient in fondue, and it had no holes at all. So I would not, personally, to get traditional Gruyere, not put any propionic shamani at all. It developed this nutty flavour all by itself from all that wiping with the brine and stuff. I think what they're trying to do there is introduce that nutty flavour. That's not to say that in the raw milk cheese that is Gruyere from Switzerland doesn't have local bacteria that is similar to a propionic shamani in it when they make the cheese. But I didn't put it in. It tasted like Gruyere to me, so that was fine. Back here says, hello and thanks for the precious videos. They help me a lot in my trials. Have you heard about Saharan cheese where the cheese is completely dried on sand? Goodness me. No, I have not. But I'll check that out. Hopefully there's a video about it somewhere. Cheese on sand. Very interesting. Okay. Cherry says, the most stinky cheese I know is Merruwool, spoken here in Belgium. Probably a wash rind cheese as well. NKY says, when you use raw milks, should you still add cultures? Two schools of thought for that. If you want to make the consistent cheese the same over and over again, then yes, add some starter cultures. If you want to have a cheese that will be a one-off and very seasonal, depending on the milking cycle of the animals, then don't add any cultures, and you'll get a fairly good cheese. The longer they're aged, the better the cheese will be with raw milk, because the lactobacteria has time to break down into enzymes that breaks the proteins down and the fats down into lipids, and that is what creates the flavour in cheese. Okay, Caitlin says, have you ever tried to do a balsamic rind on a cheese? There is a Bellevianto with balsamic rind, and the balance between the sweetness of the balsamic and the sharp cheddar was amazing. No, I haven't done anything like that, but it does sound very, very interesting. I'm not sure how they would do it. I'll have to look. So that cheese, Belleviano. I'll check it out. Thanks, Caitlin. Right, where'd that go? Brandon says, what a good brand cheeses are. Name brand cheeses, always poor quality. Usually because they're the cheapest cheeses that the supermarket can buy. Look, some are okay, but it's all hit and miss because you don't know the source of the milk, the dairy, who made it. It's always got the generic logo on it. But yeah, look, I wouldn't buy. You're never going to get a sharp cheddar, even though Kraft, not to mention many companies, but I did Kraft, they have this vintage cheddar, which is quite nice. It's very sharp. But any small dairy cheese would have the same flavour, and you're supporting that farmer, not a multinational conglomerate. Anyway, Melissa says, what would happen if you put chocolate into cheddar cheese? The cheese will become bitter. That is what happens when you put chocolate into cheese. There are some cheeses that you can rub cocoa powder on the outside to give the rind a brown colour and a slight bitterness, but that's intended. But putting chocolate into cheese during the make of the cheese tends to make it go very bitter. Okay, thanks for the link, Kim. Cheeseman, have you ever eaten Bulgarian cheese? I've had Bulgarian feta. It's very, very strong, and I do like it. And it was one of those fermented ones in the really strong brine. Nicholas says, can I throw herbs and cracked pepper in quick mozzarella, and when? I would knead it through after you've added the salt. Best time to do it. But really, it's best to put we tend to eat it with some fresh homegrown tomatoes and a basil leaf, just put on the top, slice of mozzarella, and just eat it like that. A little bit of olive oil, very good extra virgin olive oil over the top, and that is really good. Berwin says, what is your favourite food? I don't know. What is? That'll be cheese. Joe Ra says, hey, cheesy. Melissa, that was a joke. What was a joke? Oh, you put chocolate and cheese. I had to answer. I didn't know it was a joke. Mike says, when adding ingredients to a cheddar, such as jalapenos, do they have to be dried, or can you use slices from a jar? It's best when you add anything to cheese that it has been dried beforehand, and you're simply rehydrating it, basically because it won't then rot in the cheese. If you add anything fresh or moist to the cheese that hasn't been either dried out or pickled or anything like that, then you'll tend to get very funky tastes in your cheese, and they may rot. Now, with jalapenos, they're always preserved in vinegar, so the vinegar is going to stop the lactic bacteria production in the cheese itself, so you may get some weird things happening there. I've always seen dried herbs and dried fruit in cheese, and that's what I've made myself. Carla says, I love your videos, I learn a lot. Can you teach to do Brazilian butter cheese? It's very famous. Minas Garius, I think is how you pronounce it. Very famous. I have actually seen a video on that on Will Stud's Cheese Slices show. He went to Brazil, and I believe it's in the it's on a tableland, a very high region of Brazil, and it is a very famous cheese, but I haven't found a recipe for it, unfortunately. Yeah, I'll put that on my list. Vizio, have you tried Rogue River Blue, or do you have any? Do you start again? Or have you wrapped any in grape leaves or anything like that? No. See, all those sorts of cheeses are all very specific to the area. They're not um, global names. They're produced by small dairies, so I wouldn't know. Same as the question from Ethan, do you have Tillamook cheese down there? It's a US creamery, but no. No, we don't. I have no idea what these cheeses are, unfortunately, but I bet they're absolutely fantastic. What style of cheese are they? So, there's 7 styles of cheeses, sometimes more, depends on how you count them. Um, if usually they're variations on a style of cheese. Anyway, Richard says, Gavin, can you please tell us how cheese that contains crystals of salt is achieved? Okay, those hard cheeses that have those crunchy crystals in them, they're actually calcium lactate. They are a salt of calcium and lactose. That's why they taste so nice. So those little crystals are achieved in hard cheeses that have been aged for at least 10 months. So you'll find aged Goudas have them in it. You'll find that some cheddars have them in them, but definitely Romano, you won't get them so much in Parmesan or Parmigiano Reggiano because that is a very dry cheese. But yeah, it's called calcium lactate. Very tasty, very nice. You like my Cornish pasties? Yes, I do, honey. Okay, cranberry cheese is really nice. Yes, it is. Kim's deleting people like there's no tomorrow. Vizio, Rogue is one of the best blue in the world. That's the only reason I ask. No problems, Vizio. Only reason I said that is because I don't know every cheese in the world. I just know the styles of cheese, if that makes sense. Gabriel says I'm doing God's work. Keep it up. That's why they call me Cheeses. Get it? You like that? Okay. Veleston says, what are some of the sweeter hard cheeses? You're looking at mainly your cheeses out of the Netherlands. So the washed curd cheeses. So things like Edam, Gouda, Havarti, which is from Denmark, not the Netherlands. They're the styles of cheeses that are all more on the sweeter side, or less acidic is probably the better term for it. They're not as sweet. So those are some of the cheeses that are sweeter hard cheeses. And I suppose some of the Alpine cheeses like Emmental, Gruyere, what else? I can't remember the other names, but anyway, yeah, there's some of the ones. Anyway, so Tillamook is Ethan says, no, I've missed one. Back here, hello again. What is the origin of bitterness in cheese tome type and accentuated when melted? Any way to get rid of the bitterness? No, not that I know of. Is that that tome would be no? There's a slight bitterness in most tomes, so no, it's just by design, unfortunately. Ethan says Tillamook is a primary manufacturer of cheddar, but they are available with craft and the like in the cooler, but they are quality and tasty like real cheddar. No, unfortunately, they haven't made it this far. But thank you very much for describing what the cheese is. Caitlin says, could you make a video showing your recommendations on putting together a good holiday cheese platter? Yeah, that's a good idea. Why not? My real recommendations are anything that tastes good, but I can do one that's a balanced cheese platter, so no problems at all. Okay, Bob says, what about adding mini M&Ms to cheese? Candy shells soften from moisture, but they may keep the chocolate out of the cheese. Yeah, look, that'll work with a soft cheese. Like, I have seen chocolate buttons or M&Ms or Smarties, whatever you want to call them. I have seen them on cream cheese, like a cheese ball type thing. So instead of the nuts and the herbs and all that sort of stuff that's on a cheese ball, which is made out of cream cheese, they put Smarties on it or M&Ms. That works. So that's not actually in the cheese when it's being matured. So soft cheeses, yeah, you can add that sort of chocolate to it. So, but yeah. Okay. NKY said, I did a ricotta salata with cranberries. It was great. Yeah, that would be good. It actually boosts the flavour of the almost bland ricotta salata. Vizio melts in your mouth, not on the cheese. Very funny. Bitters may be caused by adding too much rennet. Yes, Brendan, exactly. Too much rennet does promote bitterness in cheese. Also, if you cut the curds too large and they retain whey, sometimes too much whey in the cheese will cause bitterness as well. Bob says, nah, everybody knows that cheese is shaves. Melissa, I know Cheese Whiz isn't real cheese, right? Correct. You can tell everybody that Cheese Whiz is not real cheese. Straight from me. Okay, last few questions. We're at the 56-minute mark. Richard says, is cheese a large part of my diet? And if so, does it have any health implications? My wife is anti-cheese as she feels it is unhealthy and fattening. There's actually been recent studies that say that a bit of cheese in your diet every day is good for you. Yes, it does have saturated fats. Yes, it does have a fair bit of salt in it. However, everything in moderation. And yeah, look, we probably have cheese nearly every single day. I'm still alive. Maybe my belly's a bit big, but that's from drinking too much beer. But that's okay. Yeah, look, health implications. Like I said, some recent studies out. Go and check them out that say cheese is actually good for you and can prolong your life and prevent heart disease of all things. Anyway, Andrew says, can you freeze ricotta as I have more than I can eat and give away at the moment? It's very tasty with fresh chives. Can you freeze it with the chives in it? Ooh, airtight container, you could probably freeze it. But it may break the texture up a little bit when you defrost it. Kim says, no, we don't, about 3 times a week. Right, so every sandwich has cheese in it. Anyway, I won't go there. Good for your brain too. Yes, it is. See, my brain's perfect. My neurologist said. Okay, we'll sign off now. Thank you. Unless we've got some final last questions, burning questions before we take a break. Do you have a recipe for more beer? Yes, I do, but I haven't made it yet. Gavin doesn't. No, I do eat cheese just about every day. It's good for you. So, like I said, Merry Christmas to everybody or Happy Holidays. Whatever you celebrate at this time of the year, enjoy so. Do it safely. And I'll see you back next year on the, what did I say? The 3rd of January, Wednesday, the 3rd of January. Same cheese channel, same cheese time. That's 8 a.m. GMT plus 11. So Merry Christmas to you all. Not too late to do a super chat if you're excited. But thank you to all those who donated during the show. Very appreciated. And that'll buy my next Christmas beer. No, keep the show going. So Kim's just put in the Patreon link. Thank you very much for that. There is my ebook that's available. You'll see that in the info card over there at the top. What's that? Right-hand corner for me. But, yeah, Merry Christmas to everybody. And have a great time. And I'll be busy making a few cheeses over my holidays. But not too many. And I'll be relaxing. Thanks for watching, Curd Nerds, and I'll see you next time.
Well, g'day, Curd Nerds. G'day, Curd Nerds.
Well, g'day, Curd Nerds.
Well, g'day, Curd Nerds.
Well, g'day, Curd Nerds. Well, g'day, Curd Nerds.